We're live. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to record this second episode of our podcast that is yet to be named, which is kind of exciting, to be honest with you. Kind of like the idea of recording with no name or idea what we're doing yet.
We've got every possible direction to take this in. There are no limits.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So we discussed a little bit earlier today about what we're going to talk about today. And I think it'll be good to kind of go off of our first intro episode last week and go into our goals and talk a little bit about what we're each looking to do over the course of this next year. And I think it'll be a great exercise to help us stay accountable to each other and also stay accountable to the show and kind of document, all the things that we're going to be doing and see where we fall short, where we excel, what we need to work on along the way. I think this will be a great exercise in helping us stay accountable to all those things. So, yeah, man, anything interesting happened this week that you want to start out with, or should we go straight into the goals?
I think this is a good rip the Band-Aid off. I think we start with the goals because talking about them publicly makes it very real. And I definitely have a sense of anticipation because once I'm talking about this now with you on the show, like there's no turning back. This is the ultimate accountability check. And honestly, this show is I'll get into a little bit of how I broke the goals down, but one of the key parts is systems. And then like every goal, I'm like part of my system is I have to come on this show weekly and stay accountable to the things that we set goals against.
I love that. That's the whole idea too about doing this. Like, I think it's going to really help us stick to all those goals that we create.
I think one thing that you and I talked about earlier that was interesting was just stepping into the full version of a new identity that I think we've talked about cultivating over the past couple of years. And all of that is just derived from continual behavior change. And so that really just boils down to a system, accountability. And so I think
I love the way you said that, by the way, stepping into a new identity, because that's
for sure. I feel like
that's kind of what I was saying before, like when we were talking earlier about, being disciplined every single day in order to become capable of, in order to become the person capable of achieving your goals and dreams. All of your goals and dreams that you have right now, you have to become a certain type of person that's even capable of having those goals and dreams. And by being disciplined, you are able to become that person. And the way that you just put that, stepping into your new identity, is the greatest way to say it, because literally that can be your new identity right now. I can associate as a disciplined person who gets X, Y, and Z done every single day, and I will never go back. That's literally all it takes, is a decision to become that person and step into that identity. I love that you said that. I'm going to fucking use that now, by the way.
Write that down. That's we'll take that one with us.
Yeah.
I think the goals we'll talk about too are a reflection of that, in that building activity-based goals is the most efficient way to build a new identity, because it's about the things you do. It's about the process. It's not about what the outcomes are. And there's almost a sense of relief in building a foundation of an identity first that can then achieve the goals that you want to. Goals have so many external factors tied to them that may or may not happen. But if I can just do the things that I know the person would do that could achieve those goals, that's way easier.
Dude, it's so funny we're talking about this right now. I made a YouTube video a couple days ago about goals and how the way that I changed my goals helped me. I titled the video like how changing the way I set my goals helped me lose 100 pounds, make more money, and quit my job. And it's exactly what you just said. It's changing them from results-oriented goals to action-oriented goals. So instead of saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, which was my goal year after year for probably 10 fucking years, it was do 5 minutes a day of cardio and stick to less than 50 grams of net carbs a day. If I do those things, I will lose 50 pounds. Like, that is not a question. Same thing with like certain work things. It was, send X amount of emails a day, watch X amount of learning hours a day. And those things will help me make more money and quit my job rather than just make more money and quit my job. So exactly what you said is basically the way to develop a habit. It's creating goals in order to create a habit, and habits are what change your life and help you become that person. So yeah, dude, I think we should dive in. I would love to know a little bit about what your goals are for 2023, and let's go into them.
All right. So I'll kick it off with the general framework for how I think about goals. And I think it's things that feel like common sense, but it's helpful for me to break them down into categories. And so health, wealth, and relationships, I think, are the three things at the end of the day that pretty much dictate the level of happiness, level of fulfillment, joy. Are you aligned with how you're spending your time? Like, it's probably falling into one of those three buckets. And so when I think about the goals, I try to simplify it and break it down into one of those three categories. And so could start with health. I think health falls into two buckets, physical and mental. And at this point, I'm actually probably finding that the mental is even more important than the physical, but they feed off each other in a way that I know, but haven't historically probably given the right amount of credit to. And so the first one for me, and I think this will be a big one, is 4 days throughout the year with zero screen time. One thing that I've noticed
that's heavy.
Yeah, I've known this and I've done a shitty job at fixing it, is that I have an addiction to my phone in one way or another. I'll take social media off and it helps, but then I'll start checking my email with more frequency. And it's like, one, what the hell am I doing? As far as what is that activity going to serve other than filling some sort of dopamine gap in my brain for looking at my phone? And so I've acknowledged that is one, just a general, it's a lack of presence. You're checking your phone, you're not present in the moment. And I think it has bigger implications than just, I'm distracted for a moment. I truly believe if we come back to stepping in the identity of the person you want to be, that person has the mental space, the clarity, the attention span to build big ideas and take action on them, and also just take consolidated sets of actions towards anything. And anytime you fracture your attention, I think that it puts you in a position where you step out of flow, you step out of moving towards a goal. And so the phone just throughout the day is a constant barrier to doing that. And so I think this is an important first step of just like living a day without a phone to help teach my brain what that looks like without the phone.
Dude, I love that.
And so
as you talk about that, I'm literally on my phone adding that as one of my goals as well. That's a great, no, seriously, that I need to do that as well. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think there's at the end of the day, your brain is just it's a function of whatever repetition, whatever your repetitive actions are. That is what your brain, it's a function of all those cumulative things. And so I have to question, like, what is something I do a lot of times a day? It's just like randomly check my phone. And to what end? Like what purpose is that serving? And so
how many times per hour do you think you check your phone? Because I'm the same way.
It has to be like in the double digits, easy.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
For sure in the double digits. And like, what practical shit is coming out of that?
It's a great question.
Mostly none.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I potentially was going to start with like only look at my phone for an hour a day or something like that. But from a practicality standpoint, like, I think it's important to build into things. And I could definitely, it's easier just to take a day and just no phone it. The systems around that are easier. And so let me maybe dive into, this is a framework I stole from a buddy the other day, to be honest.
Okay, cool.
As I was putting these together. But you start with the goal of why you're doing this. And so why am I doing this? Doing this will help me curb my addiction to my phone. It also give me the mental space and clarity needed to receive manifestation. I think that's a big problem in terms of like, whatever I fill my brain with is like what I'm going to get out of it. And so I have these goals, I have ambitions, I have things that I care about. And then I instead fill that space with like, what's the latest thing in my email? There's a contradiction there. And so letting that space exist for the things to fill it that I actually want to, I think is very important. The next thing is answer yourself, why are you capable of doing this? Just to acknowledge that you can accomplish this goal. I think it's a reinforcement exercise. So my first one is I've gone dark before with no phone for at least a day and loved it. It was really more of a function. I was like out partying and my phone died and I just like lived that day with no phone. But I know I can do it. It's been done. It wasn't in this context, but it's possible. I'm in San Francisco, so I have access to nature. So there's an easy escape. I can leave the phone at home. I can go out in nature. I can do a whole day of things that absolutely do not require a phone. And so getting them done, super possible. And then final one is I have a girlfriend who has a phone. So in case we actually need to go navigate the day with the practical things that a phone might be used for, I can rely on her to fill in those parts of the gap, but I have no excuse as to why I would need my phone on me.
Love it.
Third thing is a system. And so how do you could say you do these things, but like, unless you put together a system for it, I just don't think it'll happen. And I think that's what feeds up into the same thing with activity goals is like, what's the system to produce that activity? And so once a quarter on a Sunday is when I'm going to do this. So I can already select the dates and the times that I know I'm going to be doing this and the frequency at which I'm going to be doing it. I'll know what Sunday that is by February 1st, May 1st, August 1st, and November 1st. So I got a target timeline I'm going to hit to actually have the date chosen. And then I'm going to actively let my parents and work know that you can't reach me that day, even if it's a Sunday, because those like weird agitations keep me from doing stuff like this. Because I'm like, what if someone needs to get in touch with me?
Good thing you got your girlfriend.
Third thing, accountability. I'm telling you right now. And then the same buddy who gave me this system, I'm going to keep accountable to him that I'm going to have these days each quarter. Incentive. So what's the incentive for actually doing this? Allow me to declutter and calm my mind to achieve great things. I think it's obvious. If I do this, it starts letting me step into the identity of somebody who's got the space to be the person that I'm looking to be. And then finally, how will it change my life? I think it'll give me access to a level of presence that's escaped me for years because my phone draws me away from that. And it'll be a meaningful step towards discovering what life is like without a phone. So those like next steps, where I'm like actually able to control it on a daily basis in a more meaningful way. And I control the phone, it doesn't control me, which is ultimately the identity that I'm looking for. So I won't do this with every goal, but I thought it was a cool architecture that had been gifted to me and was super helpful when I was drawing these things out. And so wanted to share that.
Yeah, that is super helpful. I mean, I already took some from it too. I already wrote some notes down on my phone, which again, I should get a paper and pen so that I'm not relying on my phone even to take a freaking note. But right. It is 2023, so we do rely on our phones a lot. Dude, I love that. Honestly, that almost goes over every single goal that I have on here right now because I totally feel that phone addiction. And I didn't even think about taking a day off of it because of how addicted to it I am. So thank you for bringing that up. I am 1,000% going to do that with you.
It'd be a great if we can do it on the same day.
I was going to say,
we can't talk about it while we're doing it, but we could reconvene after. So I think let's try and do that because that
I think we should do that.
Just make this.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, we should absolutely do it.
Yeah, I think we could even. Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, because I've fantasized about like, what would it feel like to not have my phone for an entire 7 days? Like, I've thought about that, and then I'm like, okay, I could never do this. Like, there's no way with work, whatever. I still don't think there's a way. But one day is definitely doable, and that's where you got to start, and we'll see what happens after that. So I think that's a great goal.
One thing I'd like to challenge, I believe that in our current state, I agree, not having a phone for a week would be highly detrimental. But if we are ripped and we are rich and we are truly in control of our time, one of my, as we're talking about it, the thoughts developing that a stretch goal, like the same thing of having like a net worth of 100 million is also, I can put my phone down for a week. on my terms, and no one can say anything about it. Nothing bad will happen.
Dude, I was listening to a podcast the other day from a guy who's got a multi-billion-dollar company, and he's saying how he hasn't responded to an email personally since 2018. And I was thinking to myself, man, you know, because he's got 4 people that report to him and tell him everything, and I'm just, it taught me a lot and made me realize, like, if there's a person at this level who can not answer an email for 5 years, like, there's definitely a way to do it. And obviously, you know, it's just about figuring out that way. But like, just to know that it's possible is, I think, the most important thing, right? So yeah, dude, that's awesome. What other goals do you have inside of the health? I figure maybe we could go category at a time. Maybe, like, what other goals do you have in the health area?
So we'll go category at a time. I won't do the double click on all of them, but the next one, still inside mental health, meditation 300 times during the year. I've personally gone through stints of doing meditation, and every time I do, I'm like, this is a game changer. And then I haven't turned it into a true habit in the same way that, like, I brush my teeth. And so 300 times during the year feels completely doable to me. There's no excuse that you can't wake up or do it before bed. And I think it pairs with the theme of mental clarity, the theme of building space. I've coming out of the last entrepreneurship gig, the cannabis beverage company, that time was filled with so much clutter and just like constantly being consumed by the activity that I was doing, that there was no space. And now that I'm stepping out of that, and even in the new role that I'm taking on now as CEO of this consulting business, there's more space. And so I want to cultivate that, because I think that's where the big ideas come from. I think that's where momentum can be built. And also just from a sense of calm and daily fulfillment and peace, I think that it's a foundational brick to be laid for the rest of that.
Yeah, that I also am going to add that to my goals, because I agree with you that every time that I've meditated consistently, I've felt just more peaceful throughout my days. Like, when stressful things come up, I'm able to combat them better. And one thing I just wanted to say is, one of the guys I love, Dave Meltzer, talks about this all the time. And he says 2 minutes a day is better than 2 hours on a Saturday, talking about meditation. And it's so true. It's like, it's the consistency that really gets you into it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's the consistency that gets you into the habit that allows you to apply it to your life at any time. If you only do it for 2 hours on a Saturday and then you don't do it again for 6 months, you're not going to have that ability to apply it in real life when you could be doing it for 2 minutes a day, every single day for 6 months. You'll have a lot more application, even though it's only 2 minutes a day. It's because of the consistency over time that you're able to, apply that in real life. So yeah, dude, that's good.
Practical application on what you just said. I'm essentially working 2 jobs right now, rolling off of the old business and starting up in the new one. But a semi-emergency happened in the old business, and I reacted. Like, I had a feeling of reaction. There was like an anxiety that got pressed on me, and I definitely took action as a result of that anxiety trigger that had gotten me wrapped up. And that was the perfect example and it was a suboptimal response. And so that was a perfect example of like a cultivated, take a second, be mindful of just how you're feeling about a situation. I could have applied that there. And so even like reflecting on that moment, I'm like, okay, I literally have a tool to fix this. And so, because those are never going to stop coming. Those are, I believe, if I have ambitious goals, that's just going to be a constant. So how I react to it is the only thing that I can control. And really the actual mechanism of control is just practicing this.
Dude, I got I got the exact same thing. Like, how one thing will happen, like you'll spill a glass of water and then you'll be like, fuck. And then another thing will happen, you'll break a glass and you'll be like, fuck, it's just one of those days, then another thing will happen, who knows what happens. Right. And when you respond to the second thing happening and you say, fuck, and you get all pissed off, well, things are going to just keep happening. And when I am consistently on a meditation grind, in those moments that shit happens all the time. And in those moments, I'm able to differentiate by saying, okay, maybe this is happening because it's trying to tell me I need to slow down and focus on what I'm doing. Whereas if I'm not in that like meditative state or in my best version of myself, I'll just get pissed off and maybe even like throw something, like revert back to my old ways. And it's so true, dude. Like if you are just consistently staying in that meditative space and you're practicing every single day, it's so much easier to react to real-time scenarios. So I know I'm rambling, but yeah, dude, what, anything else in the health and fitness space or on meditation in general?
So the one that I think bridges the gap between the two is I'm going to do a 75 hard.
Nice.
And so I think that'll be the bridge gap from mental and physical, because I think the principles of that program span both. And so that's my bridge gap is 75 hard.
I love that. And for everybody who does not know, 75 hard is a program where for 75 days you have no alcohol, you stick to a diet with no cheat meals, you do 2 45-minute workouts a day, one of them has to be outside, you drink a gallon of water a day, you read 10 pages a day, and you take a progress picture every single day. And you do that for 75 days every single day. And if you miss one of those tasks on one of those days, you have to start over from scratch. And it's not even though there's a lot of physical aspects to it, it's a mental toughness challenge. And becoming physically fit is just a byproduct of building your mental strength. So I completely agree with you. 75 hard is a great crossover between those two. I'm actually on 75 hard right now. I'm on day 69. And yeah, I'm telling you, it is the perfect program to work on yourself in all areas. It's the perfect thing to build discipline, to build confidence, to build your physical, to build your mental. It takes care of everything. I think that's a great idea. Just curious, do you have a start date in mind of when you are going to do that?
Yeah, end of January is when I'm going to kick it off.
So a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
So I'll have the opportunity to keep use this podcast as an accountability.
Awesome. Me too. I'm going to keep going. Even though I'm finishing 75 hard in like 8 days, I'm going to keep going with the routine as best as I can. And I'm going to stay accountable with you too. So we're going to be doing it together, baby. I'm excited.
Let's go.
Is that okay? Is that cover for health? You got more?
That covers for the mental piece. And then the final physical piece is 300 workouts over the course of the year.
Nice.
And that's a common one, I think, but there's just no doubt I feel my best. And I think that the higher volume of working out I do, the better I'm feeling regardless. And so if I can get it at 6 days a week, like I think that's way better than 3. And I think part of it's just the repetition piece, but it's also a daily outlet for like me sitting in front of the computer for 8 or 10 hours at a time. Like getting out and moving on a daily basis, I think is critical to building this feedback cycle of just feeling good, feeling on, being able to produce flow state.
The good news is you'll complete half of those just in 75 days. Yeah, that'll give you a good head start.
Yeah, I might actually have to up that to like 450. So, because the point is to do it like 6 days a week for the whole year. But
all right, well there you go. That's it. 6 days a week for the whole year, baby. There you go.
I like that. All right, we may make an adjustment here.
Yeah, I'll. So mine are my health is very similar. It is so after 75 hard. I've done this 3 times, by the way. And the first 2 times that I finished 75 hard, I reverted back to my old ways over a certain amount of time because I've learned something about myself is that I work best when I give myself some sort of definitive plan. Meaning the last 2 times I finished 75 hard, I said, I'm going to eat this way. I'm going to work out this way. But it was very unclear, right? There was no specific macro target. There was no specific workout plan. There was no specific date range of how long I was going to do this. And I've realized that I work best in challenge type scenarios, right? Where I have a specific set of guidelines, a specific amount of time to do those guidelines. So what I've created for myself after this is a specific timeline of basically I'm going on a delayed honeymoon in May. And I'm going to give myself a break when I'm on the honeymoon just because I'm still going to try to eat healthy and work out, but I just don't know where the honeymoon's going to take me. So basically, I'm creating this plan going up until my honeymoon, and then I'll create another plan for after my honeymoon. But basically, up until May 21st, I'm going to do 30 minutes of cardio a day, indoor, outdoor, 30 minutes of strength a day, 16/8 intermittent fasting, under 50 grams net carbs. I'll allow myself 2 carb meals per week, not carb days, but carb meals. And then 1 night of a couple cocktails if I want to have a couple cocktails, which I rarely ever drink. But I just know that if I don't set some sort of specific guideline around drinking, that I just need to have a plan for every single part of it. So that's the specific nutrition and fitness I have. I try to keep it as simple as possible. That's what works for me. And then as far as the mental side of that goes, it's read a minimum of 10 pages a day, which is a habit I 100% want to keep from 75 hard. I think that when you're reading, like you were saying earlier, what you feed your brain repetitively is what you portray into the universe. And when I'm reading 10 pages every single day, I'm absorbing lessons. I'm absorbing the energy from those authors that are writing these books, and it carries into me. And if I literally, the first thing I do, by the way, every single day, I've done it for the last 69 days, is wake up and read 10 pages. I open my eyes and it's the first thing that I do. I don't go on my phone for the first 30 minutes of the day. I read 10 pages and I get my mind right before anything else. Before I leave my bed, I wake up. It's a struggle to open my eyes, but it's the best way to start my day is what I found over practicing many different things. So, sorry, I actually take that back. It's the second thing I do after my next goal, which is to say thank you every morning and every night. And it's something that Dave Meltzer, the guy I was talking about, the 2 minutes over 2 hours, taught me. And it totally got me out of a really dark place because every morning when I was this was years and years ago, when I was in a job that I hated and I wanted to get out so bad, I woke up with so much anxiety every day with this identity crisis. I didn't know who I was. I was an entrepreneur my whole life. And then I had this job. And every morning I woke up thinking, what life am I living? It was the worst feeling in the world. But I developed this habit of saying thank you every single morning and every single night. Some days it was thank you for having arms and legs. Thank you for breathing, like that I'm breathing. Some days it was very specific into other things that happened, but it was literally just thank you. And when I start the day like that and end the day like that, it's a lot easier to not let shit bother you because you just realize that you need to be grateful for everything. And so the first thing I do when I wake up is say thank you, and then I read 10 pages. And that's what I'm going to do on the spiritual mental side. But I do, after this, I'm going to add meditation in there because I need to get back on the meditation grind. And I'm happy that you brought it up. So yeah. And I also, by the way, made a rule for myself for when I'm traveling, because I think I mentioned this in the last episode, or maybe it was just when we were talking randomly, but traveling is when I fuck up the most. It's when I give myself the most excuses. So I made a plan for traveling also, which is at least 30 minutes of exercise, whether that's an outdoor walk, a treadmill walk, a strength training routine, doing 100 burpees, anything that counts as some sort of exercise, 30 minutes of that, so that no matter what I do, I'm at least keeping my daily, my daily standard. And I'm not going to restrict myself on eating or alcohol. I'm just going to not allow myself to have any sugary drinks, no mixed drinks. Forget all that. That's been my problem in the past, is like I'll have, a few margaritas, and I'll feel much better if I had 2 tequila sodas than 2 spicy margaritas. The margaritas taste good, but they do not feel good the next day, right? Neither does a tequila soda, but a margarita really fucks you up. So I'm staying away from sugary drinks, and I am still doing the exact same thing with the 2 carb meals and eating smart. So that's where I'm at for health and fitness. And yeah, dude, I would love to hear about your next one.
Can I say something on what I love about your approach to that is getting specific. It actually, once you explained it, how you explained it, it's so easy to do, but it's a definitional change of how to think about what you want and sticking to goals. And so in the past, I've 100% suffered from like being on a good grind, but having a loose expectation for what that grind is. I'm like, I'm eating healthy and like, yeah, I'm just generally going to keep doing Whole30. I like generally doing it. And I'm like, and then I'll mostly do it. And then I'll just slide off.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, I didn't really say exactly what I was going to do. Like, this isn't necessarily a conversation I'm having, but I know that this is like the subconscious background context is like, well, what, like, I basically am still doing this.
This is what everybody's problem is, by the way.
Yeah. And so as soon as you just put a number, and this probably took you 5 minutes, you put a number on it and said, these are the rules. It now becomes extremely black and white and so much easier to measure yourself against. And then so much easier in that moment to be like, this is wrong, this is right. Not, I'm living in like an abstract context of what I want to be. And so I think the simple specificity, I think the concept of a challenge, like, shouldn't we just always be in the middle of a challenge?
Yes.
Like, do I ever not want to be in the middle of a challenge for the rest of my life? Because I'm going to die one day.
Right.
And so I might as well be like out there punching.
You should optimize. So I said this the other day, like my entire life was optimized for comfort, and it got me nowhere except for fucking constantly being in my own head with anxious thoughts and all this shit. Whereas once I optimized for growth and challenge, all of a sudden I had this sense of fulfillment. I started having success in my business. I started having success in my weight loss. Optimizing for challenging growth is way better than optimizing your life for extreme comfort, which is what 99% of people do.
Couldn't agree more. And I think you can even apply that to super self-improvement centric things. And so if you're talking about going on travel, or you're talking even going about like on your honeymoon, like the challenge for that can be so present and engaged on that honeymoon that like you've never taken it to that level of just like being present, being there with Greta, like doing the best time possible. Like that can be the challenge. It's just the concept of not ever sitting on the sideline of your own life, which I think takes the specificity that you're talking about, the intention. That is the critical, that's the critical juncture to actually get that done. And so I think those rules can apply elsewhere in things that aren't just directly like me being the quote unquote best version of myself, but it's how to live the most like intentional moment in everything that you're doing. The same rules apply, but I think you built a really nice, simple framework to achieve that.
It kind of goes back to the old cliche of like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, which is honestly so fucking true. Like if I don't plan specifically what I'm going to do, I will fail. I will be fucked. I need a specific plan. And yeah, dude, I'm excited to see how it goes. What's next? What did we say? Health, wealth,
and then relationship, which that's just I did it health, relationship, wealth. And so the relationship one, I've got a girlfriend. I live with her in San Francisco, and I'm going to commit to planning and doing 50 couples focused activities over the course of the year. So it's about once a week doing a dedicated us activity, which that should be a no brainer. But I think it's important with everything else. Like that's something I want consistency in. I want to cultivate a deeper relationship with her. And so this is an activity metric I can work against to ensure that happens.
I love that. I have the same thing, which is have a date night weekly, which is something we've tried to do for a long time and have not always succeeded in. And do something new together once per month. Like we did this, we bought this random board game, me and my wife, and who you know, obviously Greta. We bought this board game like, I don't know, a few weeks ago. Never played a board game, just the two of us. Like, first of all, there's barely any board games you could play with just two people, but this was like a 2-person game. Dude, it was so much fun. I did not want to do it, bro. I was like, babe, come on. We're not playing this fucking game right now. You know, like this is what the heck, what are we doing? I loved it. It was so much fun. I was like, why don't we do like this took us a half hour or whatever to play this game. And it was so fun. Why don't we do random shit like this all the time? Like just something new. It doesn't have to be go on a vacation somewhere we've never been. It could be play a $10 board game for a half hour. And I think just doing something new is a big thing, because especially when you've, like me, I've been in this relationship for 12 and a half years. So you have to start doing new things, or else you just fall into the same kind of routine that you do in your own personal life when you're not challenging yourself of, you know, just going by, sitting on the sidelines, watching your life go by. It's the same kind of thing in a relationship. If you aren't actively working towards, you know, growing together as a couple, you are just watching your relationship go by. And something that me and Greta talk about all the time is that we have both grown so much individually in the last 12 years and also so much together. And it's the only reason why we are still together today and why we have such a loving relationship, because we've actively worked on all three parts of those, her, me, and us together over the last, not 12 years, but over the last 5 years or whatever it's been, where we actually started doing things. And it's just been such an improvement in our relationship. I mean, literally 12 and a half years in, and you know, we're more in love than ever before, which seems crazy because we spend so much time together. But like, it's just that framework of her growing, me growing, us growing together. As long as we're doing that, we're going to remain happy and great things are going to happen to us. So I just wanted to add that.
That's beautiful, man. Like, actually, that's fucking awesome. And it's that level of intentionality that you're talking about that then leads to this extremely positive, fulfilling outcome in the relationship bucket. And so I'm excited to hear about these date nights. You'll have to keep me posted in case I need some idea.
I was going to say we got to give each other some ideas.
Yeah, maybe a little collaboration here could go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. What is next? Wealth?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this offline and talking about business. And so how do you want to approach this? Because I think this is kind of tough. What we talked about is this. It's tough. It's a tricky one. There's the things that we're planning to do in our businesses and to grow wealth, I think, are very specific, very business specific on what it is that we're doing. And all the same rules apply as far as health and relationships in terms of like defining activity metrics. These are the things I need to go to achieve XYZ revenue, profit goals. There's probably an aspect of just like personal, or there's an aspect of just like, you know, personal austerity if we want to grow wealth on top of growing the business. But yeah, how do you want to
I think maybe we paraphrase kind of our business goals instead of being as detailed as we have been with this, just because everybody's business goals are going to be very unique for their own business. Whereas the things that we're talking about right now, like as far as personal goes, almost everybody's personal goals are similar when it comes to health, relationship, you know, your spiritual stuff. Like almost everybody needs to work out, eat healthy, you know, meditate, things like that. Whereas business is so unique that I think it's maybe better to paraphrase. Like, I'll give you an example from my business goals. Actually, you know what? I have two parts of my business goals. One of them I could actually be specific with, and maybe this will help you talk about your goals. But the set of my goals that I really don't want to be specific with is like, I need to hire 4 positions in our business to take over 4 different channels of our business. And the 4th person that we hire, hopefully will replace me, which is my ultimate goal. And that's the truth. Like, everybody, all entrepreneurs are in the daily grind and ready to work, 100 hours a week. But the end goal is obviously hiring somebody that you can delegate those things to, so that you're not working 100 hours a week. Not that I work 100 hours a week, but you know what I'm saying. And so I have those goals around my business. I have like grow by a certain number of clients per quarter, grow by a certain number of leads per day, XYZ. I have all those goals. I'm not going to go into all the specifics, but the goals that I have that I can give you specifics on are related to my personal brand, which is and isn't business, right? Like, it kind of is, it kind of isn't. It is because it will help me grow my business, but it isn't because I would do this shit whether it helped me with business or not. I'm doing it for a different purpose. I'm doing it for a sense of fulfillment. I'm doing it for a sense of transcending myself. But at the same time, it's also going to help me in business. So one of those is record 1 video per week from my personal YouTube channel, post 2 clips per week from that main video on YouTube Shorts, IG and Facebook Reels, and TikTok, record 1 podcast per week, post 2 clips per week from that main podcast on our YouTube Shorts channel, IG, Facebook Reels, and TikTok channels. And then I also want to be a guest on 2 podcasts per month. So those are like some of the specifics I have around building my own personal brand. And I needed to do that because it's the same thing with the goals in the past. The goals in the past, like lose 50 pounds, make more money, quit my job, grow my YouTube. I never had a specific plan in place like that. So I'm really excited about this year as far as content goes. I'm sure I'll get 0 views on my first 50 videos, but hopefully they'll take off at some point, and I could actually make some sort of impact. And I would really love that. So that's where I'm at on the business and personal brand. I don't know how you want to talk about yours, kind of, but I feel like we've covered enough specificity with everything else to kind of just glance over business and, hold each other accountable privately as well.
Yeah, I think all the principles are the same. And what you had talked about, there's the annual goals, there's the Q1 goals. We can walk that back to like daily strategy and planning, but I'm not sure how really even helpful that is. That's a whole separate bucket of
I think that though is the lesson, right? Regardless of whether we talk about what the specific goals are, I think that is the lesson, which is walk it back. What is your goal for the year? Okay, What are you going to have to do on a monthly basis to achieve that yearly goal? Okay, in order to achieve that monthly goal, what are you going to have to do on a weekly basis? In order to achieve that per week, what are you going to have to do per day? And just like we did with all of our personal shit, break it down into a specific activity for a specific amount of time or actions, like send 100 emails a day, make 100 cold calls a day, do X, Y, and Z per day. And how does that back out to what your yearly goals are? I think that's really the framework that people need to take when they're setting their any goal, and business is obviously included in that.
You take the ambiguous and you turn it into something extremely practical and simple. And so you take the big goal and then you work backwards and ask yourself what needs to be true, and apply basic arithmetic to that, and the daily things you need to be doing, the weekly things you need to be doing, and that's strategic planning in business. And it's a very similar framework to managing your own life and personal goals. I loved what you said about the personal brand, because you've got more than a knack for this, and so hearing you put the specificity around this on what you're going to do, I just have 0 doubts that one, you're probably right. It'll be 0 views for like the first 50, but then 50 to 100, there's just exponential growth that occurs after that. And I think that's how we're approaching this podcast too.
Oh, totally.
Honestly, I kind of hope nobody listens for the first 50, but then you damn well better believe from 50 on, we're gonna be straight fire. And so
it's so true. It's a practice ground, these first 50, dude. Nobody listen. If you're listening right now, shut it off, even though you're already almost at the end. But yeah, dude. All right, cool. Well, anything else you want to talk about, or should we call it a day?
No, that was a fast 45.
Yeah, was that 45 minutes? Holy
45
shit.
minutes on the dot. I know.
Wow. Okay, cool. This was great, man. I think I'm excited to stay accountable. I think this will help me a lot, and we'll keep talking about it, and we'll document, and it will be cool in 5 years from now being able to come back to like literally this specific episode and see how our lives have changed by following the goals that we've set for ourselves. Or even at the end of this year, we could do a recap of this episode and be like, well, this is what's happened by sticking to these things or by not sticking to these things.
Episode 2, Ground Zero. You heard it here first.
Let's go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, actually, you're probably not listening because this is only our second episode and we're going to have 0 viewers. But if you are listening to this, maybe you're listening to this in 5 years from now, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Apple Podcast, our Spotify, or whatever you listen on. Leave us a comment, do all the deeds, and we appreciate you for listening. Thank you so much, Brad. Love you, brother. I will talk to you soon, and have a great day.
Love you, man. Talk soon.